But first, News Channel 5 investigates after a top-secret military program treated active-duty U.S. soldiers like they were guinea pigs.
For 20 years, the government tested chemicals on soldiers who were not aware of what was being put in their bodies. It may sound hard to believe, but tonight, investigative reporter Ben Hall talks to a local veteran who was a part of the testing.
This is a picture of me. I believe I was at Fort Bliss, Texas.
Dennis Paul was in his mid-20s back in 1968.
The word got around they were looking for volunteers.
When he volunteered for what he thought was an easy assignment.
Weekends off and relaxing, and that's why I took it.
This group picture shows the medical volunteers he served with. They were told they'd help test military equipment, like gas masks. But instead, they were part of a top-secret program that deliberately exposed them to chemical and biological agents.
These were active-duty service members being used as human guinea pigs.
Attorney James Hancock works with a California law firm that filed a class-action lawsuit back in 2008 against the CIA and Department of Defense. It detailed how the military secretly tested drugs and chemicals on thousands of soldiers, including dangerous nerve gases like sarin and incapacitating agents like BZ and LSD.
It's an important story that needs to be told, and it's a story that, frankly, a lot of people don't know.
For 20 years, from 1955 to 1975, the U.S. government conducted the chemical weapons research on soldiers at Edgewood Arsenal in Maryland.
For the actual test, Private Zadrozny received a high dose of the incapacitating agent.
This now declassified film shows soldiers being injected with BZ, which in high doses can lead to hallucinations and confusion. After receiving the drug, soldiers were monitored to see if they could do basic tasks.
Shortly after receiving the drug, he is grossly impaired in the same skills.
In the midst of the Cold War, the Army was concerned chemical agents could be used against our soldiers. The lawsuit quoted a 1954 report to President Eisenhower, which urged him to approve the human testing and stated, if the United States is to survive, long-standing American concepts of fair play must be reconsidered.
It's sobering to hear, the words and the discussion that was happening at the time about setting this program up.
Hancock says the class-action lawsuit forced the Army to locate soldiers who were in the testing program and send them documentation detailing what happened to them. It also released them from their oath of secrecy.
I'm glad to be talking to you about it, because I feel like in my heart there's a lot of guys out there went through the same thing I did.
Dennis Paul's paperwork shows he received BZ, which he called benzene, and said made him feel like he was in a nightmare for hours at a time.
You can't coordinate anything. You can hardly walk. And your mind is going so many different directions.
Documents reveal after getting BZ, Paul was put in temperatures of 105 degrees, then 125 degrees for up to 7 hours to see if the drug impacted the way soldiers sweated.
The doctor told us, said, we're giving this to test what will happen if it's used in a warmer climate. So when I received the shot, we went into a heat room.
But it wasn't just BZ he received. This questionnaire shows an interview from April of 1968 when he was put in a chamber and exposed to an irritant, likely tear gas. He was asked, did you have pain every time you took a breath? He answered yes. And how would you compare this test with the last one? Today was worse, he responded.
We did volunteer, but not to get, I'll use another word, not to get messed up.
They didn't know that they were signing up to have mystery chemicals injected into their bodies.
Here, girls, come on, babies.
Paul retired from the military and went on to raise a family near Nashville. At age 79, he actively harvests honey from his bee farm, but he's haunted by what happened to him at Edgewood. He believes the testing hurt him emotionally and stole part of his life.
I missed out on so much with my family. Not being able to say, when they were little boys, and I loved them, but it wasn't a real me there.
The U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs has this page on its website. It states about 7,000 soldiers took part in the experiments that involved exposures to more than 250 chemicals, and it claims no significant health effects have been observed in those who were tested.
It's important that these men who serve their country are honored and get the opportunity to tell their story.
Back in.
Dennis Paul just wants people to know what he and others endured.
I've read several of the guys say that they never were the same after benzene. And they are telling the truth.
The chemical testing on soldiers stopped in 1975, ending a dark chapter in American military history. The Army is now required to provide medical care to veterans if they can prove their issues are the result of the testing. Ben Hall, News Channel 5, investigates.